We're heading south. On today's special episode of Homeworthy, we're exploring 3 beautiful homes influenced by the timeless charm of low country design. First, we visit a colorful waterfront home on St. Simons Island, Georgia, where a designer transformed the space into the perfect family retreat. Next, we step inside a historic home in Sullivan's Island, South Carolina, where original architectural features like heavy pocket doors and wraparound porches blend seamlessly. Then we explore a beautifully curated home in Charleston, South Carolina, where a designer and entrepreneur creates a perfect balance of Southern heritage and modern design. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Scan the QR code to subscribe to our new channel, Weddingworthy, where we celebrate amazing couples and the love stories behind their perfect day.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Kim. Welcome to my home in St. Simons Island. Thanks so much for coming by. Come on in. I'll show you around.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story.
Hi, I'm Kim Scodro. I'm an interior designer and we are based out of Chicago, Illinois. Currently, we are in St. Simons Island in Georgia. It's this beautiful jewel of an island that is situated between Jacksonville and Savannah. And I say those 2 cities because you can fly into either one, and St. Simons Island is right in the middle. And it is this just oasis of beautiful land, and where we happen to live, it's very much like forest. There's a lot of trees and greenery, and it's just beautiful. We're a few minutes from the beach and the ocean, so we absolutely love it here. We have always had a winter home in Arizona for 18 plus years. And we decided that we wanted something a little bit closer to Chicago, something that had a little bit of greenery, something that was just a little different. And I don't do change. Change is not something that I embrace. But my husband and I decided we'll come take a look down here at St. Simons Island. We've been to Sea Island many times for family vacations or visiting the golf courses there. And we came here and we walked into this house, and it was the first house that we saw, and game over. It was done. I fell in love with it. I fell in love. And I think it's because the beautiful lake view, the way the house is situated, the house was built so incredibly well, very solid. And so for me, looking at it from an interior design perspective, I could just run with it. Hi, welcome to my living room here in St. Simons Island. We're in an area called Frederica. It's a beautiful wooded area, and there's a lovely golf club here that my family, and particularly my husband, enjoys. But this is the main space. This is where we watch TV. This is where, when the grandkids are here, they hang out. And it's a big space, and it's the reason that we fell in love with the house. When we walked in and we looked outside and we saw the view, it did it for us. The space is big. It has enough seating area for everyone, but it also, there's not a lot of wall space. So we had to create interest in other ways. So you'll notice I'm a huge fan of coffee table books. That's a really good design tip too. What do you put on a coffee table? Coffee table books, they're beautiful. Collect them, things that you like. Mine happen to be mostly about interior design, but the colors, everything about them, they just add interest. And it also gives you varying heights. It's hard to pick one coffee table book that I like. I feel like every time I buy a coffee table book, that is my new favorite coffee table book. But one of my most recent favorite coffee table books is the Gracie wall covering book that was just done. I think it came out this fall. It just one page after, I'm a huge fan of Gracie wall covering, and one page after another. It's just more beautiful, more beautiful, more beautiful. And so I'm a huge fan of that. We like to give that out as a gift to clients and friends because it's beautiful, beautiful. This is something that's fun. I love this. So because St. Simon's Island is new to our family, the beach is obviously very important. And for when my grandkids came for the very first time, I gave them the task of collecting as many seashells as they possibly could. And they hit the jackpot. So we took all of them, we cleaned them, and what a beautiful centerpiece. I look at it all the time and I can think about them picking them up, and then still to this day when we find new ones that are interesting, we bring them and put them inside of there. I'm still trying to think of something clever to do with them. Maybe make a mirror or something. You'll notice, I'll show you upstairs when we get to one of the bedrooms, my granddaughter did make a lovely vase with seashells. This is an amazing artist. He is from High Point, North Carolina, and he created these two pieces based on some colors that I gave him. I told him, you be you, and this is what he came up with, and I think they're great anchors for this space. When we bought the house, there weren't any built-ins here. I think there were just pieces of furniture, so we added the built-ins, added this art, which is sort of a juxtaposition between some of the antiques in this space, but I think it works. So this sectional, which was voted on by the entire family, we needed a sectional. Our last home did not have a comfortable sofa to watch TV, so we went with a sectional. And it seems a little crazy to do a white sectional or off-white sectional, but this is actually a performance fabric, so you can spill anything on it, it wipes right off. And then we piped it in a soft blue to add a little detail to it because it's a big piece of furniture. So that detail of the powder blue trim sort of begins to tie everything together in the entire space. The pillows on the sofa are interesting because I'm not sure that they necessarily work together, but they were fabrics that I fell in love with. So I forced them to be together, but this one has embroidery on it, and the color palette of each of them, I just fell in love with the fabric, so why not put them on here? And they work. This is a beautiful Samuel & Son trim that is an ombre, and it's just a subtle detail, and you see the color of the blue changes. How cute are these stools? And it's funny because right now they look like stools. You're having conversation, you have people over for cocktails, there's somewhere for everyone to sit. When my grandkids are here, these are thrown off onto the ground. This becomes a surface for, I don't know, a fire station, Legos, whatever's being built. But they're usually thrown all over the place. But they're very light, and I think that's really nice to have in a space where you need extra seating, and little stools we try to always incorporate them into a project because they help with space planning. It's funny, when I saw this house and the previous owners, the interiors were quite different. In Chicago, we live in a pre-war apartment, so there's a lot of architectural detail that's built into it. When it's new construction, it's hard to get that patina. And so my main inspiration was taking this new, well-built home and giving it a little bit of age, a little bit of warmth, a little bit of a hominess to it, a home feel to it. And so I think that I achieved that mainly by incorporating quite a few antiques into the house and warm color tones. Come on over here and I'll show you the dining room. The dining room was a really fun spot to design. I felt it was important to bring some antiques into this space because the height, there's everything about it just required uniqueness. And This was actually a wood ceiling. There wasn't wall covering. This was wood below. So I fell in love with this wallpaper and decided to pick up one of the colors in there and carry it throughout. We painted the shutters. This beautiful antique table I found in Lake Forest, Illinois. Found these antique chairs at the antique market at High Point Market, which happens every spring and fall. And I couldn't decide which dining fabric I liked best. So I used, I think, 4 different dining chair fabrics. And I used a gold gimp along here to help to tie it all together. But I still don't know which one I liked best. They all work. Found this Swedish grandfather clock in Libertyville, Illinois, at a place called Ashley and Sloan. And I had it brought here specifically for this space. And then when it got here, of course, it didn't work. I don't even know if it still works, but it was all in different parts. And a man from Savannah had to come up. That was the only person I could find to get it, to put it back together, because inside there's all the weights and details. And it just sort of came in all these different pieces, and I didn't know what to do with it. This, again, another antique piece. This antique bust is actually of a Southern woman. Found that at an antique fair, and I loved her. And I was with my husband, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, that's great." And I said, "Yeah, but it's quite expensive." And he was like, "I don't think we can have a dining room if we don't have that. Like, she's perfect." And so we bought her and brought her home, and I absolutely love her. There's an amazing artist that I buy a lot of art from. She actually goes in and finds apartments, warehouses that have been closed down for years, and they're opened by whether, I don't know if it's their estate that wants to sell them, and she's finding these really unique pieces of art. And I put it on an easel, and it just makes it feel a little bit more special. Another antique chairs, believe it or not, this actually came with this fabric. Yeah, it's not in the best shape, but I absolutely love the fabric. I am a huge fan of blue and white and ginger jars, a huge fan. And I think these work perfectly in here. They're different sizes, but I did try. Be careful. I did try and use, these are antique ginger jars, and I did fill this with water and put flowers in it one time, and I carried it from the laundry room, and there was just water everywhere. They don't always hold water, so put a glass inside of it before you put your water and flowers in there. I learned that lesson. This tray, this wicker tray, helps to just bring things down to a more comfortable level. I also think these gold drapery fabrics, the fabric is Michael Smith. It's a beautiful fabric. I think that too helps I wanted this to be a relaxed space, not necessarily pretty, but not necessarily formal. And the kids, we eat here, and we have New Year's Eve here. The kids decorate everything, and it's a fun, easy space to be in. It's not necessarily formal dining space, but it can be if we need it to be. The wallpaper I fell in love with. The wallpaper was the first thing that I found for this space, and I fell in love with it. It's a Lee Joffe wallpaper, and that is where we picked the paint color from for the ceiling and the wainscoting and the shutters. And the wallpaper incorporates this bit of blue and green, and then we pulled in the gold. To be fair, the gold is in there, the gold draperies are there because I just love the fabric. I absolutely love the fabric. So I forced it to work. The GIMP helped tie it all together. But the wallpaper, I think, is just, it adds, the vertical stripes add to the interest of the height of the ceiling. And then this Vaughn light fixture is really a statement piece. It's pretty on it. It's just so beautiful as its own, but within this space, it really fits nicely. When I walk around the house, I do think about what room is the room that I absolutely love. And I think that from a visual standpoint, from an interior design standpoint, the dining room's beautiful. I happen to love the primary bedroom, but I think the room that I actually love the most is the great room and kitchen, because When the kids are here, when our grandkids are here, it is just mass chaos, and that is the best feeling. That's the whole reason why we have the house here, and so I think for that reason, personally, that's why I love those spaces. If you follow me this way, we can take a look at the kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen. This is where everything happens, as in most homes, is in the kitchen. When we bought this house, all of the brick was more of a brown color. So we painted the brick behind us there. And it's funny, I know this sounds really strange, but the very first thing that I bought for this house, and I knew exactly where it was going, and it was sort of the jumping board for it, was this piece here. It's a woman bringing water, and back here they're gardening, and it's just, I just absolutely love it. And it's cricket. And it sets the tone, I think, for what I wanted the whole house to feel like. I know that some people think it's strange to have artwork behind your cooking surface, but to be fair, it pops right off and it's pretty easy. Little bits of adding, antique cutting boards, an antique tea kettle, all of that helps newer spaces to have a little bit of age and a little bit of patina and a little bit more of a homey feeling, and that was what I was looking for. And then over in this space, this was just an area, and so we built a built-in seat there, and this became a little banquette seating area. These are great Hitchcock antique chairs that I bought online on auction, and I feel very fortunate to have found them. They're signed by Hitchcock. They were pretty popular chairs, and you can find them on all sorts of different antique auction sites now. But what was unique is finding two that were exactly the same. And this here is an antique dining table because I needed to find something that was narrow enough that it didn't impede the walking space here. And so this, with the scalloped edge detail, I fell in love with that. Again, the pillow situation. These are just fabrics I loved. I love all of these fabrics. There's cute little dogs on this cushion seat over here. And we brought in some antique artwork just because I loved it. This handsome man over here in this piece, right here with his blue eyes, I think he actually looks like my oldest son. But it's just something that's interesting. These are actually altar candles, things that people would carry up to altars from Spain. They're very old, and we had those mounted onto the wall. So there's a lot of antiques in this space here, probably because the kitchen felt the newest to me. We added a butcher block countertop here instead of a stone countertop, just because, again, to add that patina to it. We made the island a little bit creamier than the rest of the cabinets. And the interesting thing is wood countertop, like I'm constantly making sure there's not water on it, but it's sealed, so it's absolutely fine to use. But behind us over here, we have what's called a dirty kitchen, a scullery. It has all sorts of different names now. So if you come back here, you'll see this is sort of where the workhorse of the kitchen is. This is the refrigerator and the freezer and the pantry. We have a bar here that opens up into the sun porch. So that window opens, and this is the bar, so you can pass drinks throughout. A large pantry here. So everything is sort of hidden, which took me a minute to get used to because I'm used to working in just one big kitchen, but I actually like it now. I like that you can make a mess and sort of hidden back here. So this here is the china cabinet, and I love it. I love china. I love collecting all different types of china and transferware and hand-painted. This is Ginore from Italy. It's interesting to me, and when we travel, I'm always trying to find different. These glasses here actually came from Russia, and I have some glasses that came from Italy. So it's fun, and it's something that you never have to stop collecting. You know how sometimes it's like, oh, I've collected so much, or I'm done with that. No, you can collect dishes always, and you can always find somewhere to any little flea market or antique outlet, you can find something interesting. I did find, this is unique, I can't seem to find many of them, but it's almost like a lilac pearl or purple transferware, which I've been looking for more of those, but we'll see. Luckily, this house had a lot of storage for plates. Right here, I have been collecting all of this transferware for a while now, and so I didn't know what to do with it, so I hung them on the wall here, and I think it looks nice. Interior design has always been a passion, always. When I was little, I had a canopy bed in my bedroom. It was handed down from my two sisters, but it had a blue gingham check for the canopy and for the bedding. And I don't know why that just has stuck in my head. It was always, that's what the feeling that I gravitate towards. That to me is a feeling of warmth. You'll see a lot of gingham in this house here, a lot of checks, because I think that we lean towards spaces that resonate with us as warm feelings. And so I think that early, I noticed it, I felt it. And so interior design was just always something that was part of my life. I always enjoyed decorating. I used to be a home economics teacher, and I taught high school. And my degree is in secondary education with an emphasis in clothing construction and interior design. So obviously, I always knew I wanted to get into it, to gravitate from teaching into actual practice of interior design. It's a lot different teaching it than it is practicing it. But I think it was just something that always was part of my life and something I always enjoyed. If you'd come with me this way, we'll go see the entryway. So this is the entry, and it was important for me to incorporate a little bit about what is outside and what is ahead. Because when you walk into the entry, the first thing you look out and see is the lake and the greenery. And so I found this amazing Tebow wallpaper. It has the branches and the trees and the birds, and I just thought it was a nice nod to all of the greenery and the forest-like environment that is outside in Frederica in general. And we have a pecky wood ceiling up here. Pecky wood is indigenous to the Georgia southern area, and so I love that. I love the history behind it and how much it's used down here. Painted all of the trim in here, and I thought I did a good job, and then I didn't like it, and I couldn't live with it. So I found another color, and I said to the contractor, can you please repaint everything? He said, repaint all of this? I said, yeah, I'm not happy with the color. I'm so sorry, it's my fault. And so he painted it all, and I had given him the color. I came back in town and I walked in, it was late at night. I couldn't sleep all night. First thing in the morning, I'm like, I'm so sorry, I hate it, it's terrible. Can we repaint it again? He thinks I'm crazy, but I finally think we nailed the color. It happens, right? You have to paint samples, and you can't just pick from a color swatch. And I was my worst client myself, but 3 times the charm, and I think it turned out nice this time. So this rug was such a good find. I actually found it at a local store here in town in St. Simon's, and they were very nice. They brought it over. They brought a couple of them over to let me look at. But the colors in here just tie everything together. And usually I'm not a matchy-matchy type of person, but this one was so perfect I couldn't pass it up. This antique chest over here was actually in our home in Arizona, and it transitioned so nicely over to this space. Beautiful antique mirror here, which sort of reflects and opens up the space a bit, which you'll notice interior designers use mirrors quite a bit, just because it's like adding another window to the space, which is fun. You'll notice some artwork here. There's an artist, her name, I have quite a bit of it throughout the house. Her name is Francine Turk. She is from Chicago, but her artwork varies quite differently. It depends where she's painting at, what year it is, what mood she's in. I happen to love her artwork. This here is a piece she did. She did it on a piece of, I think it's a piece of stationery when she was in France. This is what she's sort of known for, are her nudes. Those are 3 of her pieces there. It's beautiful. In here is the powder room, and if you take a look at it, it's sort of unique. We were able to use a wallpaper that I am obsessed with, always have been, by Lee Joffa, and found a beautiful antique mirror, some intaglios that I bought at an antique market in Paris, and then we had a new vanity made with some scallop detail. I do have a go-to tip that we always talk about this with our clients, and it's not anything specific, it's just if you love something, use it. We will make it work. It will work somehow. It's more important that you love something that's in your house and enjoy it than it is to do what's considered right in the interior design world. So it's your home, it's where you live. If you love something so much and it just doesn't feel right, whatever, you can work around it and make sure that it's there and enjoyed in your space. Follow me this way, we'll go into the primary bedroom. The primary bedroom, it has a lot of color and a lot of interest, and it just makes me happy. And my husband's not opposed to pink, luckily, but again, the gingham, which just brings me happiness, it brings that sense of warmth, and I love it. It's very classic. Used it on the draperies. This was a piece that I had reupholstered. We actually designed this piece for a show house. It looked completely different, had it reupholstered with a gathered skirt. I think sometimes we forget that, myself included, that you can reupholster things and bring a whole new life to it. When we used it before in the show house, in Lake Forest, it had a very modern, clean line to it with lucite legs, and now it just fits perfectly into here. I love tying in fabric lampshades instead of just paper lampshades, just another dimension. This fabric was the sounding block for the entire room because I fell in love with this fabric and I needed to have it in here, and so we built everything around this fabric. Great Tebow wallpaper, vines and the florals, it just brings happiness. And over here, we have a mirror, an antique mirror that reflects the outside, so because the view is just beautiful from here, within some intaglios on the wall and some upholstered chairs. I do love this bed. I love that it can be reupholstered. We did a gingham on it this time. I had it reupholstered in a velvet before, but I absolutely love it. It's a hickory chair bed. It's called the left bank bed from Hickory Chair, and all the details of it. It actually comes, if you prefer, shorter columns, but all of the details of it just make me so happy. I love this bed. This rug is by Stark, and Stark makes beautiful rugs, but this rug is primarily blue, which balances a little bit of the pink, so it's not so pink. We pulled some bedding that had blue in it as well, and to help tie it all together. But this rug is just fantastic. It's 100% wool. It just has a nice warm feel to it, and interest. I think that it's a cut and bound piece. So if you have a big space and you don't necessarily want to purchase a hand knotted rug, you can buy a beautiful piece of carpet and bind the edges. And today, so many carpets they used to just be beige or plain, but there's so many beautiful details that you can find in actually rolled good carpets today. An office that my husband uses Looks like he cleaned it up. But this, if you come on in here, it's a small office, but it's a great view, and it's just what he needs when he's working from home. If you follow me, we'll go take a look at the sun porch. Welcome to the sun porch. This is the area that we live in when it's beautiful out. It's a nice big open space, and one of the real reasons we bought the house. It has a beautiful sitting area and fireplace, and as you can see, you get to see the lake out there. We chose to do 2 dining tables here just because if we're having a smaller group, it's nice. You're not sitting at a giant table, but we can actually pull them together and when everyone is here and have a nice big space. Out here, the view is just, and the breeze that you get from it is so nice. People sit out here all the time. Kids take naps out here if they want to get a little rest. It's just a beautiful space to hang out. We barbecue, we grill, we just hang out in here. We do have, every day about 3 o'clock, a giant, big, huge alligator comes. And he lays right there on the bank, and he just minds his own business. I can take a photo of him from here, from inside the sun porch. I get outside, I get about to the end of the pool, and he scurries into the water. He's afraid. But I really wanted to remove that fence because I don't like it. And so I'm like, the fence has to go. I can't look at the fence. I don't like the fence. And then they said, well, the alligator would probably come up and get closer to the house and maybe even slither into the pool. If you want to get the alligator out of your pool, go ahead. I was like, yeah, no, fence is good. We're keeping the fence. But I've sort of grown to like him. I don't want to go near him, but he minds his own business. But every day about 3 o'clock, unless he's busy. Some days he doesn't come, but most of the time he comes. We made this room feel like a living room. This is actually indoor-outdoor furniture, indoor-outdoor fabric. It stays outside 365 days a year, but it looks like inside furniture. It's comfortable, it's easy, swivel chairs, comfortable again with the stools to bring extra seating about. In fact, when we first moved into the house, all the furniture wasn't in yet, but this furniture was here. And our kids were coming down for a visit, and I wanted them to be comfortable. So we had this in the living room. It actually looked nice. It was fine. It fit the bill. But we have a beautiful fireplace, and this space, this is one of the selling points of the house, this big, beautiful sun porch. And it's nice because a lot of homes in the South have the sun porch right off the back of the house, and so our view wasn't impeded at all by having the sun porch over here, which I like. It's off to the side, which is sort of nice. And it's nice to have this dock here. I don't know if you can see, but we have a dock over there on the other side of the fence. And so we're not exactly a family of fishermen, but we've become that. The grandkids like to come and they fish off the dock, and they've all caught fish before, and it's catch and release, so they catch them and throw them back in there. But it's a fun activity. It's really fun to go down there and do a little fishing. Let's take a look outside at the pool area here. It's nice to enjoy some sunshine out here. All the greenery is what really drew us to this area. When we spent time in Arizona, there's not a lot of greenery, so all of this grass is something we really, really enjoy. So this lake here is, there's actually a boathouse at the clubhouse, and you can take a boat out at any time or have somebody drive you around. You can't go fast. They're just slow moving the boats, but it's nice to take a ride around the lake and see. And there's the pier that I talked about that they like to fish off of, which is really fun to have. It's new. It's something new and different for us. This is is one of the guest bedrooms, and we tried to make it as comfortable for people to come and enjoy. There's a reading nook, comfortable bed and linens, and it's a happy space with a beautiful view of the outside lake. I love the wall covering in this space. It's just happy. And I found these great antique lamps that work perfectly in here, which is it just adds that little bit of detail to the space. We overlaid a hand-knotted rug onto a piece of rolled carpet just to add some color and interest to the space. You notice this space has a lot of different patterns in it, and they're all floral, so they all relate, and of course a little bit of plaid never hurts anything. But as long as your color palettes stay within the same tone, I think that you're okay. I think you'll always be okay mixing and matching patterns. If you come upstairs, I'll show you some more guest bedrooms up here. And we also have a really fun room that I can show you. We're upstairs here on the landing, and this was a big, long, white space of drywall, and it's hard to find artwork that works with it. So this is a photograph. It's a triptych, one photograph, 3 pieces put together that eat up the entire space, which is really nice and colorful. The green is so nice. This is another one of my favorite guest bedrooms, I think because of the gingham and the plaid. The color palette is primarily green with a little bit of added yellow. Again, we overlaid a rug on top of a rolled piece of carpet. Found these great antique shelves that worked perfectly in here as nightstands. And then, who doesn't love a little trim on a window treatment with pom-poms? Just that little bit that adds a huge touch. The beauty of doing your own home versus doing work for clients, it's also the beauty of it, and also the most difficult part, is that I could pick everything that I just loved. Everything that I loved, that made me happy. No rhyme or reason, I just loved it. The hard part was there was no one to ask, do you like this? Which one do you prefer? I was asking myself those questions, and it's hard to do. And I think any interior designer will tell you the most difficult project is doing your own project. This room was big enough that we were able to accommodate 2 queen-size beds, which is really nice when a bunch of kids are here. We have a fun game area here. There's plenty of space for everybody to spread out. And I love this wall covering. It just reminds me of Georgia. And of course, a little nod to the gingham. If you follow me this way, this is a fun space. It looks like a bookshelf, which it is actually a bookshelf. But when you come in here, this is a space that the grandkids absolutely love. Welcome to the bunk room. There's a bed for each of them. My granddaughters can do their gymnastics here. They have dance parties. The grandsons wrestle here and have all sorts of fun. Back behind those doors is a toy chest area where they have all sorts of toys in there. But each of them, it was difficult because this was just a attic, nothing space before. And it was hard because we looked at all different ways to create bunk beds. But with the slope of the ceiling, the only way we could do it was to have them running vertically instead of horizontally. But I think it works out great because each one has their own little nook, their own little cubby, and their light. They can keep their books in there, their stuffed animals in there. They can close these drapes for privacy if one of them wants to sleep longer than the other. And it was also, because I have grandsons and granddaughters, it needed to have a neutral palette to it. And I think the blue and red is really fun. It's really fun. I feel so fortunate to find this carpeting because it's unusual, the colors in here, and then to find a carpet that picked up on it that is durable, that the kids can do anything they want up here. It's 100% wool carpet, so it will clean very easily. And then each of them have their own beanbag chair with their name on it, and they have a lot of fun up here. home mean to me? Home means to me family. Home has always meant family to me. It's a feeling of warmth that you can't get anywhere else. It's a place of comfort where you can relax, where for me it's my family can come over anytime and they feel comfortable. They feel that it's their home as well because it's a home that they were raised in this environment. So to me, home is family, and home is being together and having a space where you can invite people in and they walk in and they just feel comfortable. They can sit anywhere, they can put their feet up on anything. Doesn't matter if paint gets spilled on the kitchen table, doesn't matter. Thanks so much, Homeworthy, for stopping by my home here in St. Simons Island. I have to run now. I think I'll go check if the alligator's out visiting. See you soon.
Hi, Homeworthy. I'm Sarah. Welcome to our historic Sullivan's Island home.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos. Scan the QR code to subscribe to our new channel, Weddingworthy, where we celebrate amazing couples and the love stories behind their perfect day.
Hi, I'm Sarah Heckler. I'm an interior designer, and we are here in Sullivan's Island, South Carolina. We've lived here on Sullivan's Island for about 7 years. We moved here from New York. I lived in New York City for about 17 years, and my husband was born and raised there. We had our daughter in New York, and when we were trying to raise a family, she was 2, my husband and I realized that New York probably wasn't going to be the best place for us to raise our family, have another child, and things like that. So we started looking around the country and we landed on Charleston. We love the history here in Charleston. We love the food scene, the architecture. It punched all the tickets for us, and we thought this could be a great option for us. So what drew us to this home was the historic nature. This house was built in 1894 by the Army. There's a series of houses on our block. There's 11 homes. They were all built by the Army in the late 1800s. I think a couple of them maybe in the early 1900s. And they're very, very similar. They all look similar, but yet slightly different. And they were built for the officers during the war. There was an active Army base here on Sullivan's Island. It was an open Army base. The fort was called Fort Moultrie, and its sister fort is Fort Sumter, which you may have heard of. So our house was part of this fort, and there was other houses called the Sergeant's Quarters, which are also on Sullivan's Island, and they're, I would say, probably the oldest houses on the island. And next door to us is actually apartments that was the bachelor's condos for the unmarried men. They would live there, and our house would host 2 families, 2 officers and their families. We looked primarily in downtown Charleston when we moved here. Our real estate agent took us touring downtown. We thought we had our sights set on downtown. We were city people. We thought we're gonna move from a big city like New York to a small city like Charleston. And it turns out that we saw this house on Zillow, and we kept asking our agent, we love this house, where's this house? It's in a town called Sullivan's Island. I've never heard of that before. So she told us that she would take us there, even though we weren't sure if we were beach community people. And we walked in and we knew this was it. We really did. We knew this was our house. We had to have it, and we negotiated on it and bought the house a few months later. Welcome to our foyer. There's a few things in here I wanted to talk about. One of my favorite things in the foyer is this credenza. I designed and had this built by a woodworker local here in Charleston. His name is Scott Mira. It has really easy slides here for the doors. And when you open up one of these doors, you see we have dovetail joinery and sliding drawers that pull out. This piece was designed by myself, but I was inspired by a designer named Jean Prouvé, who's a French architect and designer from the 1940s, where he primarily made furniture. I love his work. I always wanted one of his pieces. And unfortunately, the scale of furnishings from the 1940s wasn't as tall or grand as I had wanted to fit the foyer. So I thought, why not just build a piece to fit the scale of the house? This is much taller than a standard credenza. And one of the other elements is these doors are brass. So this is a blackened brass finish that was applied to the wood doors. Another thing you'll see on the credenza is this little stack of books, and one of these books is actually a book that was written by my mother-in-law, Audrey Heckler. She has a very large art collection of outsider art, and if you flip through, it's a complete book of all of her work, and she discusses all her pieces in there, which is pretty awesome. And another thing which I think is funny is my kids do Legos all the time, and I just love this little Lego vase that my daughter did to show off her little flowers here. We have this really incredible dome. It's a 19th century glass dome. A friend of mine, Dawn Nakamura, is an artist here on Sullivan's Island as well, and she builds these domes that encapsulate shells and butterflies. So this is one of her pieces, and we'll see another one of her pieces in another room of my house later on too. What I love most about our house is probably the high ceiling heights and the ceilings themselves. I can't wait for you guys to see that. The ceilings are incredible. There's so much detail in every single room of this house. The home itself has such grand presence with the high ceiling heights. The scale, the doorways, the sliding doors, which you'll see as well. There's a lot of history just in the bones of this house. If you take a look up the stairwell, you'll see my 3 floors of stairs and all the ceilings that go up. Every ceiling has details printed and stamped in tin. The story as it goes, or what I was told, is when the house was built in the late 1800s, the war began and the cannons would fire off and shake down the plaster moldings that they had originally put up in the house. So in order for that not to happen and the ceilings to crumble and fall, they opened up a tin shop on Sullivan's Island and hand pressed all the tin and used that as the ceilings for all of the officers' quarters. So our house has tin ceilings in every room of the old structure, and every ceiling has a different print and relief. We have a lot of black and white in the house, so the walls are primarily white. On the first floor and second floor, we have a couple bits of color, but very subdued color. Nothing bright or shocking, easy on the eye. I really like warm color, warm palette, and to make it feel inviting. The chair in the corner is an old antique office chair that was my husband's, and we just thought it looked cool sitting here underneath this painting and piece of art. It just feels like a place to sit if you want to take your shoes off or whatever. Again, from the original structure of the house, we have this huge double door, and during the war they would have put up these bars that cross the door like this. You would slide it in here, and it almost barricades the door and locks it and gives it extra security. I would say all of the doorways on the first floor, actually, and the second floor, have these bars that go across, and I think that's a really cool element that is from the original part of the house and built when it was built by the Army. The light fixture in the foyer is something that's unique as well. To me, it sort of looks like a sea urchin, something like that. And we do live at the beach after all. So this was selected and hung here. It's really large in scale, and the colors pair well nicely back to the oil rub bronze things that we have, or the brass things in the house. And it's kind of just a big statement piece, while it also has a lot of light bulbs, so it does provide some light as well. Welcome into my formal living room. I'm going to take you in here, and one of the things that I want you to especially see is this really cool floating coffee table. This is a piece that we had custom made. This table is a few hundred pounds. When we moved here from New York, our movers they were not happy with us. One of the things that makes it look like it's floating is we had a acrylic base created for the bottom of the table. That way it's clear and you don't see how it sits on the ground. A few pieces that I have on the table are this really cool bowl. It's porcelain. It's also done by a local artist here in Charleston. Her name's Maria White. She works primarily with porcelain, and she had this 24 karat gold paint that she rimmed the edge of the bowl with, and I think it just adds a little something special and shiny to it. We like to keep a lot of art books around our house, and this one sitting here actually is the history of Sullivan's Island right on top. It was one of the first books we bought when we came here because we were so fascinated with the history of the island. Another thing I wanted to point out in here is on our sofa, you see these white oak carved legs. I had mentioned in the foyer that I love the designer Jean Prouvé. One of his signature styles is to do a sloped triangular leg on his furniture. So we had the sofa custom made to fit our space, and had a woodworker carve the legs to look like a Jean Prouvé style leg. So, and the style of the fabric and everything almost makes it feel a bit mid-century as well to go with the design. As we walk around, you may notice we have a lot of artwork hanging on our walls, photography, paintings, and things like that. My husband and I love to collect art. He especially. One of his favorite photographers is Stephen Shore. So you'll see here a photograph by him here and here on this wall too. These were taken in the I would say 1970s. So I think they fit with a cool mid-century style of some of the pieces in our home as well. Also in this room, we have a painting that was done by my daughter when she was 3 years old. So we have professional photographers as well as some art by our kids too. Another thing I can show you here in our living room is little knickknacks we like to keep around. This glass jar right here, for example, is just filled with shark's teeth. We live at the beach. My kids love to collect shark's teeth. They're wandering around or going to Morris Island or other places where they can collect shark's teeth. Because we have really high ceilings in our house, it is really important to come up with light fixtures that work really well. So this is a light fixture that's pretty large in size, and it's made of cocoa beads, which I think is really special because it kind of adds a little bit of island flavor back to a house that doesn't feel so beachy. Over here on this side of the room, we have these cool plastic molded chairs with a wool fabric. And I think it's cool to add this element of modern furniture to a historic house. I love the juxtaposition of the two kind of going together. So here's an example of that, I would say. And now I'll take you into my formal dining room. But before I show you around in here, I want to point out the sliding doors that you'll see all around our house. These are also original to the home. They're incredibly thick, over 2-inch thick solid wood doors. They're really, really heavy, and we don't move them very often because of that. But they connect all the rooms on the downstairs floor. So we decided to paint all the doors in our house Charleston green. They look black, but there's a slight green undertone to them. I think it draws your attention to them. You notice the details, they're different from the walls. They become something that's eye-catching, and the doors themselves have so much presence and interest that it's something I want you to notice. The height of them is really tall, and you just wouldn't see doors like this in a house built today. As I mentioned earlier, you would see a lot of artwork throughout our house. This is one in particular I wanted to point out. This is a reproduction of a Degas, but it has a cute little story behind it. This came from my husband's grandmother. This was hanging in her apartment in New York City, where he grew up and where she lived. And his whole life, he thought this was a real Degas painting. And I think his mom even thought it was real too. So after she passed, they went through all of her belongings and discovered that this was not real. And they still offered it to him and asked him if he wanted it, even though it was a fake. And in the end, of course, he wanted it. It was his grandmother's, it was sentimental, and he always, used to look at it when he was at her apartment hanging out with her. You'll see a lot of fireplaces in our house. We have 5 operating fireplaces that are original. One of the unique things about them is they have these mirrors above them on a few of them. And sort of columns, all original tile, things we've never replaced. We have painted them, but not replaced anything on the fireplaces. And just keep some knickknacks, candles, flowers, photographs, decorative elements around them. But it is a unique feature of the house to have 5 working fireplaces in one home. During the 1800s, early 1900s, there wasn't any heating and air conditioning, so they would use the fireplaces to heat the home, and the wraparound porches of the house would keep the house cool in the summer. As we're moving through the dining room, I want to point out the dining table and chairs. We had these chairs, they're vintage. They are rebuilt and varnished. We had them brush and darken the metal frame and upholstered them in a light colored leather. This kind of gives a more of an antique quality to them, as well as the table itself. The base of the table are brass legs that are antique. They are burnished brass and they're darkened to make them look older with age. And then on top, we had this really heavy, I guess we like heavy things, glass table cut for the top. It's about 1 inch thick, solid piece of glass to kind of give it that illusion of water almost sitting on these table bases. The candelabra here is another antique piece. My husband, he got that from an art show somewhere along the line, I'm not sure. But it just adds a nice, it ties the whole table and the pieces together for us. As you can see, we have bookcases in our dining room. I don't think that's a very typical thing to do. I think at one point this room was not used as a dining room. It was possibly used as a secondary sitting room or office for the officers that lived here. So you can treat these rooms how you will for today's living. We came from New York with a lot of books. So we have these bookcases here filled with tons and tons of little antiques, knickknacks, and hundreds of books. I'll take you over here to this cool little bar cart. This cart is a piece that my husband got from his father. It's an antique piece by a designer named Edward Wormley, and it was made in the mid-1950s. This side over here opens, so it extends, which is really cool, so you can have more bar space if you're having a party. And you've got your cabinet, things for your wine or other liquors. And above that, we have a painting by Calder from the 1940s. So we have a lot of different mixes of art in our house. Next to the bar cart, we have this table, which we used in New York for a different reason, but when we moved here, we thought this is a great opportunity to put in the corner. So if we're hosting in our dining room, we have additional seating, we can move the table out, we can serve food from here. So for now, we have it here with these fun, funky, red leather upholstered vintage chairs and this cool black table. Again, you'll see the black color, just pops of that coming throughout with another black and white photograph that we have in the home. My path to interior design was an interesting one because I started as a model when I was 14. I traveled the world. I lived primarily in Paris. I lived in Milan, Tokyo, Australia, Miami, LA, New York. I lived in New York for cumulatively 17 years. And that was my career. At the middle of my career, I went back to school. I went to Parsons School of Design. And originally I had wanted to be a fashion designer, but when I was working as a model, I discovered that I saw the industry inside and out. I saw every aspect. I saw how it would be like to be a designer and what they went through. And I realized, I think I just like clothes a lot more than I like to be a designer. So I chose my path to be an interior designer at that time. After I finished Parsons, I started working for a designer who was actually my studio teacher in New York. She was an incredible designer. She took me under her wing and she was my mentor. She showed me everything about the industry. She taught me how to do my billing, my sourcing, custom furnishings, custom draperies, everything I needed to know I learned from her. And I'm grateful for that. So when I had my daughter, I left working for her and I started my own business. So I've had my company, Sarah Heckler Design, for about almost 10 years now. My daughter's 9. And so that's really how I got into interior design. And now I work here in Charleston, but not limited to. I do have clients in other states as well. The den is where we love to hang out. My husband and I watch our shows in here every night. I would say this is probably the coziest room in our house. To give that cozy feel, we added this textured grass cloth wallpaper. So all the rooms in our house are painted except for this room. And I think just having this added texture gives a room so much more warmth and coziness. And in this room, we also have a fireplace that's a brick fireplace. In the other rooms, they're all tile and wood. And in here, you have this dark Carolina brick. During our construction to the house, we had noticed that over time, the house had gone through many different hands. And the joinery of the brick it did not look good and it was not authentic to the home. So we had a mason come in and do what's called a sloppy joint. And that is what is joining these bricks together now. And that is what they would have done back in the 1800s. So the other feature of the fireplace that we did not love was it had a white block, plain painted mantle. And it just did not feel authentic to the home. So we had this log sourced from a 1700s cabin, I think in North Carolina, but we had a woodworker bring it down and finish it to fit the fireplace. And one of the cool little things on here is this wormhole that comes down the front, and it just has so much character, nail holes, wormholes, splits in the wood, and I think adding this has completely transformed the fireplace in here to feel like they would have originally had it with the home. I'm embarrassed to admit this, but it's so hot here, we've never ran one of our fireplaces. We also have more bookcases here in our den, as well as the dining room. But we have a lot of knickknacks and things I can point out to you. This is funny. I actually love, my husband has this old head and he puts when he makes his calls, he takes his phone and he connects it to this headpiece and he rests it there, which I think is hilarious. This carved piece of porcelain up here, I mentioned the artist to you earlier. Her name's Maria White, and she is a local porcelain potter, and she hand carved that little bowl, which you can put a candle in. Different things to an old cigar box that was my husband's father's, shell that you might find somewhere here in Charleston, a lightsaber from Disney World, different pieces of random art. If you come over here on the other side of the fireplace, we have the other bookcase with lots of other funny things. I don't know, I always love this too. It's a Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters, or these cool funky candles. They're a pair of legs and you can light them. Some little sculptures are pictures of our kids, a huge piece of coral. We live at the beach. I try to include a little bit of elements that are coastal, even though this house is not that traditional, what you would think of coastal home. I would say it's more coastal military. This is another photograph that we've collected over the years. It is scenic with the ocean and cool vintage car. I think, again, something appropriate for living at the beach here. We try to bring a little bit of those elements in. Over here, you'll see this vintage Eames chair and ottoman. This was a piece that was given to my husband from his father as well. So we like to keep these pieces around. They're comfortable, they last forever, and this is a piece original from the 1950s. There are so many doors in this room. We of course have the sliding doors to come into the room, but then we have two sets of double doors, and this door would have been the exterior door to the house at a certain point that would have led you down to the side porch. But at a certain point, they've enclosed the porch on the side of this house, and now it is an air-conditioned space. So it's just a funky, cool feature to have a room where every single wall is covered in doors except for the fireplace. We did work to this house. It was move-in ready when we came here, but as we lived here, we started to see things that needed to change for us to feel like we could live in an old house, but yet have a more modern living situation. The house is very traditional in its layout: formal living room, formal dining room, family room, and the kitchen was off to the back of the house, which is not integrated in with your living spaces. And we knew that we were gonna have young kids, and how are we gonna see our kids play in their playroom if I'm cooking dinner and trying to move on with my life, and I have no idea where my kids are, unless they're in the kitchen with me, bothering me. But anyway, so we did have to do a major renovation, which we did during 2020. We did an addition on the house. Actually, I'm sitting in the room right now where we added on to the house. We added this family fun playroom area to our kitchen, and made it more of a open living kitchen floor plan. We hired an architect here. His name's Beau Clowney, and he is well known for working on historic houses as well as new homes. We came up with some ideas. We gave back enclosed porches, which are another key feature to this house. It has full wraparound porches that they would have used back in the 1800s, early 1900s, when there was no air conditioning. It provides shade and keeps the house cool during the summer months, which is very hot here in Charleston in South Carolina. So that was definitely necessary. So we worked with the town. We gave the porches back. We reinstated them to the original way they would have been back when the house was built. They're open air porches now. They wrap around the house, and we added on to the back of the house where the kitchen is. Welcome into our kitchen. We did the bulk of our renovation in 2020 in the kitchen. The majority of our time is spent here in the kitchen. I think for a lot of people it is. You hang out here, you eat here, you hang out with friends, you socialize, you party. We're here a lot. We cook 3 meals a day. We cook a lot in our house, so we're always in our kitchen. We cooked a lot in New York. I think we were one of the few families in New York that cooked all the time and didn't get carry out every night. But we love to cook salmon, steak. My husband grills a lot. We always eat together. We eat together as a family, not every night, but most nights. And so we're always in the kitchen. So we have a marble countertop on our kitchen. I know a lot of people do get worried about marble countertops and staining and things like that. We have not had any issues, and we cook a lot. I think the primary thing that people get worried about when they say staining, it's something from my world that's called etching. Etching is when the stone has been, the polish on the stone has been removed in an area, and you only see that in certain lighting and if you're looking at the countertop at certain angles, and it's something that just doesn't bother me. If you are in a working kitchen that you're using all of the time, it's almost adding character. It's like buying unlacquered brass. Our faucet over here is unlacquered brass. All these things here are lacquered brass. This is hammered copper. These are living finishes that change depending upon the cleaning that's done to them, the polishing. The air exposure alone changes brass. I love to see the little speckled, blemishes on the brass. It adds character, and there's so much character in our house, it just makes sense. One other thing you can see in here is this beam right here, the choice to not have painted this. We added shiplap, which makes it feel more modern in today's world. They would not have had that back then. But again, you have this juxtaposition of what was and what is now. This beam right here goes up and across the ceiling. That is a structural beam to the house that's supporting the ceiling. And that is another example of what was originally built here, and we left it exposed and unpainted so you could see that. In the kitchen, we have this kind of quarter half of the kitchen where it's a lower ceiling height, and you come in over here and the ceiling drops up or goes up about, I don't know, 1.5 feet. And that also tells a story. I wasn't here for that story, but at some point, one of the owners decided they wanted a larger, grander kitchen. And there was probably a wall here. And they removed that wall, but they wanted to keep the ceiling, that precious stamped tin ceiling, intact. So you have that ceiling here, and then it goes up and you continue on. We preserved that, and then the wall was taken down at a certain point to enlarge the kitchen for today's modern living. During the renovation, we also wanted to change out some of the lighting that was here earlier. Again, you see this drawback to some black accents or gray. We put these almost like cafe style sconces on the wall to add extra light for the countertop in here. And then over here, we did the same thing with a chandelier that has, I think, like 20 light bulbs in it to just brighten up the whole kitchen. I love the use of a grand statement piece for a vase on a kitchen island. This was actually a vase that my husband gave me for Valentine's Day. And I think it's so cool. It's glass, it's ribbed, it's ombre, it's dark, it's light, it has a lot of detail. And then I can go out and forage branches from the yard and fill it with that and have a huge kind of living green thing here in the kitchen, which adds so much life. Here you'll see a huge cabinet. We had to add this because the kitchen itself doesn't have a ton of cabinetry. So this is almost like a china cabinet. We keep all of our dishes, kids' cups, plates, everything that we use primarily in the kitchen is here. We have floating shelves in the kitchen, so we do not have a ton of cabinet space. So this was definitely necessary for everyday living. Next to the cabinet, you'll see this really cool, bright colored, large painting. This was done by a friend of ours who's an artist named Gonzalo. He is from Uruguay. I don't know, I just think this is so grand and big. It's a statement piece in the room. It's fun. We have kids, we entertain, and it just adds color and life into the room. Behind the painting is, you'll see this kind of brick wall piece here. So originally this was where you would have had a wood burning stove. Back in the late 1800s, they would cook their food here. And that's also why you see, my kids love to point this out, which I think is hilarious. They think we have a paper plate hanging on the wall above the painting. It is not a paper plate. It is tin. It's a tin piece that's used to cover an element of the old burning stove that was here. But now it just adds something cool and funky to the kitchen. It's a conversation piece. We decorated our home primarily with our furnishings that we brought from New York. I would say we have a bit more of a modern style with mid-century mixed in and a lot of antiques, as well as new furnishings or custom furnishings that we had made to fit our apartment and now our home here. We weren't sure that our furnishings were gonna fit this style of this house because it does have a very specific look. But but I do love the look of modern furnishings mixed with an old, ornate home. I think that the juxtaposition of those two things, modern and old, gives a sense of balance, and you'll see those as we walk through the house. Now I'm going to take you into the sunroom. The sunroom is connected to our kitchen. This was an exterior wall here, so before our renovation, this was the wall to the house with a door that would open up and go to our old pool that we had. So through our renovation process, they blew out this wall and then added this room onto our kitchen. This is where all the light is primarily coming from. So our goal with this room was to make it feel like the outside was coming in. All three walls around are all glass windows. The light comes pouring in on this side of the house in the afternoon, which is amazing. So it's rarely ever dark here. One of the things that I can show you is our pool is off the back side of the house here, so you also have a view of the pool. Speaking of bringing the outside in, this is the room where we keep all of our plants. This tree over here is a fiddly fig tree that we got more than 15 years ago. So he is thriving and alive here in the corner of this room because he is just soaking up all of the light. And we gave him a pot that's kind of yellowish color to add a little pop of light in here. We call him Mr. Tree, that's his name. Mr. Tree made the move with us from New York. The movers were a little worried about that. They did not guarantee Mr. Tree would survive the move, but Mr. Tree did. He survived, and now he's better than ever right here in this corner of the room with all the light just soaking on him. On the credenza is this incredible, incredible butterfly dome. I had mentioned earlier, my friend and artist Dawn creates these domes. They're 19th century domes. The glass is huge. This is one of her largest pieces, and she's filled it with white and black speckled butterflies. They're real butterflies that are preserved, and she does these creations and makes them feel like they're flying all around the glass dome. The dome is an antique piece, so again, it feels authentic to the home, and it has a lot of character when you look at the details. We have my kids' little plants on the credenza, and next to it are this kind of cool stacking stool set. There's some blue. We decided to get something with color and oak, mix the colors together, tie it back to the credenza, and also it's fun because you can use this as extra seating for when we have guests. They kind of just come apart. You stack them, and it adds extra seating at the table when we have friends over. And the same woodworker who did those is actually a German woodworker, Stottmann. They built this bench that we have here. On our bench is Fuki. Fuki is our bonsai tree. My husband gave me this. It was another Valentine gift, actually. And Fuki is, I think, 27 years old approximately now. It's a really old bonsai tree, and we take really good care of it. And clearly, Fuki also loves to be by the light. So this is a cool feature in this room. We were trying to figure out how to solve this. This was the exterior window on the outside of the house before the renovation. So before the renovation, I would have been standing on my porch, on a small porch on the outside of the house. This window goes to our laundry room. But now that this is a room where we live and hang out, we didn't want to get rid of the original window because it's cool, but we also did not want to look directly into our laundry room. So we found this cool glass that has a motif, like a relief print on the glass that kind of disguises. You can let the light through, but you cannot see through it and see my, hanging laundry. But it is from an era, this pattern, I would say, is a historic pattern. And I think that also complements the house itself and something that they would have used when the home was built. A couple tips I could suggest for decorating your home would be, for us, working with the home, let the home speak for itself sometimes, especially with a historical home. We never tried to take any of the innate character and structure away from the home, we always worked with those things. Everything we did during our construction phase was actually to bring it back to its original state and preserve the incredible historic nature of the house. I think through furnishing the home, you can add in your personal style, but not fighting with the architecture of the home itself is really important. So here's our backyard. We added this during renovation as well. I mean, the yard was here, but before renovation, we had this 1990s vinyl liner, I called it the Mickey Mouse head shaped pool. It was kind of tearing down the sides. We knew it had to go and it needed to be either repaired or something new needed to come. So when we decided to add this glass room, windowed room onto our house, we knew that that would be kind of encroaching on where the pool was. So we hired a landscape architect, and they came back and redid a whole plan for the backyard. We did all new plants, bushes, shrubs. They dug a big hole, they filled in the old pool, they pulled it out, and we put in this awesome, big, modern but traditional shape rectangular pool. We lined the patio with travertine stone. It just felt right with the home. We love to host our friends, our kids, friends, everyone back here. They swim all summer long, and we have a blast in 100-degree weather in South Carolina. So on the other side of the yard, we have our garage. We come down these little stairs here, and this is like a little side yard where my son loves to play soccer. He's really into soccer. So this was kind of a gravel pathway that led to the front of the house, and our landscape architect helped us to make this a better use of space. The grass is brown right now because we're in early spring here and it hasn't turned green yet, but we do get luscious green grass back here, and it's perfect for kicking the soccer ball around. So over here on the side of the house is kind of a funky little feature. We have this bulkhead, which reminds me of Wizard of Oz when she was going underground to get away from the tornado. But this goes underneath our house. Back in the 1800s when they built this house, their thinking was that if a hurricane or flooding were to come, since we're on the coast, that we should dig out underneath the house. So there is about a 7-foot height under the home. So if water were to ever come up here and rush through during a hurricane, then the thought would be that all the water would go under the home and not in the home, or could at least be displaced temporarily underneath the house. So this bulkhead opens up, and you can kind of go down these old creepy stairwell that leads you into this dirt cement. It's sort of a basement, but you can't use it. But it's the dug out basement from underneath the house. Home means to me a place where we can come and relax, hang out with our kids, and really enjoy our space. I'm a homebody. I think my husband is a homebody. We really love to hang out here. I want to be happy, whether my house is 1,000 square feet or 10,000 square feet. I want to make it feel like it's mine. I want it to have my personality shine through, my husband's personality. I want it to function so that we can live with our kids and not feel that everything is sacred and precious, but some things are too. So I think that we have a good balance of that, and home for me is a place where I can feel safe and relax and enjoy my space.
Oh, hey, Homeworthy. Welcome to Charleston. My name is Monica, and I'm so excited to give you a tour of my home. Come on in.
You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. Before today's episode, click the join button below to support all of the storytelling we do on this channel. Our growing community of members help to directly fund more videos so we can capture these extraordinary homes from around the world. So join today to receive early and exclusive access to new Homeworthy videos. Scan the QR code to subscribe to our new channel, Weddingworthy, where we celebrate amazing couples and the love stories behind their perfect day.
Hi, my name is Monica Lavin. I'm based in Charleston, South Carolina, and I am the owner of a company called Art of the Entry, where we offer exterior accents for your entry. Like I said, we moved here about 3 years ago, and we actually moved from Savannah, Georgia. We lived in an older home that was built in the 1800s, and so when we were moving to Charleston, we actually wanted to find something that was totally opposite. And so we found this house. It was built in 2001, and mainly the difference is that it's a much more open floor plan, which works really well because my daughter loves to ride her scooter throughout the inside. So I feel like there's just a lot more space. I feel like it's just modern living. When I first walked into this house, I think what I always envision when we're looking at homes to buy is, where am I gonna put the Christmas tree? I don't know if anyone else does that, but that's something that my husband and I do. And so whenever we first walked in, we looked to the right, and really there was this amazing place right next to our staircase that had really high ceilings. And we looked at each other and said, all right, that's it. And welcome to my front porch, which is actually one of my favorite places in my house. We spend a lot of time here, like I said, eating popsicles, doing crafts, and just talking about the day. So when I envisioned this porch, I really thought about having wicker chairs. These are actually from Mainly Baskets, which is a company that I love. And this console table is actually one of my really good friends, Julia Berolsheimer. She did a collection with Pottery Barn, and I just love the sweet scallops and the green for a pop of a soft color on the porch. I love how it's shaded. I love the plantation shutters, and really, this is just where my daughter and I come out here. She has a little fairy garden that is to the left of us that she goes and plays with, and I can just sit here and honestly read a book or drink some coffee. I would say the most favorite thing about my house is my front porch. And the reason being is that when my daughter comes home from school, we'll go and get a popsicle and sit on the steps, and it's just this feeling that evokes inside of me. It reminds me of my childhood. We have beautiful weather here, so it's just, it's a way that I'm really just kind of hoping that I'm creating these memories for my daughter. But now it's time to come inside, so come this way to my foyer. Foyer is actually kind of small, but it gets a lot of use, and it's mainly because of my husband's piano that I've talked about. He plays most mornings, and my daughter will come down in a dress, and she gets on our little entry rug and thinks it's her stage, and she starts dancing. So even though it is kind of this small area that sits between our dining and our living room, it definitely gets a lot of use in our house. And then the artwork that we have above the piano is actually from a local artist. His name is Rick Reinhardt, and it's a view of downtown Charleston, specifically Wentworth and King, which is where I used to work at the College of Charleston. These sweet little chairs that I put on either side are actually from Casey's mom. I just loved the curve of them and that they were lower and also more petite. And then these paintings that we have above it are actually things that we snagged when we were in Italy. I just love the colors. As you can tell, I'm drawn to blue. And so these really caught my eye. And then again, I just put a sweet little plate above just for a pop of a different element, kind of a different material. And then the stage I was talking about with my daughter is this beautiful rug that actually has some reds and burgundies, colors I don't typically kind of lend to, but I loved it in this space. And this was just an antique find at one of the markets. A lot of the light fixtures that we have in the house are actually from Circa Lighting, and the owner lives in Savannah, Georgia, which is where we used to live prior to Charleston. And so I love to incorporate her pieces whenever I can. This one, I just loved the white with the pop of gold. I thought it was simple, yet it had just such a beautiful design, and I really think it goes well in this space. And I'm sure many of you have a plate collection, so this is mine. I actually got a lot of these pieces whenever I went antiquing with my mom, so they're pretty special to me. I don't have a big collection yet, and so I just have, these are my favorites that I put kind of flanking each side of our front door. So when I'm looking to add to my collection, for me, it's really about the shape of the plate. As you can see here, they're not just really a square or round. They have some scalloped edging, even this one up here, little baby scallops, which I think are so cute. And honestly, my advice would be to just kind of go to things that you love, right? So whether it's the color, whether it's the pattern motif, I obviously love floral, so I'm drawn to the floral design. I love this sweet little pattern, but honestly, I think it just has to be whatever speaks to you. I don't think there are any rules when you're starting a plate collection. I moved to Charleston about 3 years ago, and I would say when I first moved into this house, I really wanted it to feel light and airy and fresh, also relaxing. I have a little 4-year-old at home, a little girl, and so I wanted her to be able to feel free and play and get things dirty without it feeling a little too stuffy. When we first walked into the house, the previous owners actually really had great taste and style. It just wasn't necessarily what I was envisioning for being on the coast and being in this kind of like white picket neighborhood that we live in. And so I took a lot of the bold colors, a lot of navies, plaid. There were a lot of oriental rugs and just really brightened it up. So a lot of the rooms are actually white, which is something that I haven't done in a previous house. And then I added some floral patterns. I guess you could say I have a little bit of the grand millennial style there. But yeah, just kind of wanted it to be clean and like I said initially, like fresh. And so really just getting out some of the bold patterns that they had in here. So now I can take you to our formal living room, which is just right off the entry. Just follow me. Obviously, this is where my daughter likes to play in the mornings, especially since my husband's playing the piano. You know, I guess part of the decor is her dollhouse that's in here. But I also have some antique pieces that I found really throughout markets and just antiquing. One is this chest here, which again, I just loved kind of how delicate it was and the femininity of it. All right, and then for our fireplace, it's a gas fireplace. We actually really don't get that many cold temperatures in Charleston, so sometimes whenever it hits 60, I turn on the fireplace. But I love it in this room. I feel like it grounds it makes it homey. And again, I had just an area where I could put some plates, of course, so I did. And this right here is one of our frame TVs that we use. I love it because it really sits flat against the wall. And the design is actually from one of my really good friends who also lives in Charleston, and her name is Jordan Connolly. I just love the colors, and I thought that it fit well with the rest of the room. These spindle chairs have been with me in about 3 homes. So here I went ahead and just recovered them in one of my favorite fabrics. I loved the darker tones of the wood because really in this room I have a lot of new pieces like this coffee table and this sofa that I have, a lot of pastels and light colors, and so I wanted to find some things that really grounded it, like the darker tones in the furniture, but then also this beautiful antique piece that I have. And one of my favorite coffee table books is actually called Mother and Child from Claiborne Frank, and it was a gift whenever I had Julia from one of my dearest friends, and it actually made me cry. So it's definitely one that I hold close to my heart. So again, here's a collection of my coffee table books. Mine are really focused on probably gardening, but also interiors. I love architecture. I love Veranda magazine. I just love pieces that also have a beautiful cover and that speak about the home. I love this piece that I got from an auction. I love the shape of it. I love how it's petite. I've brought it with me for a couple of homes. I won't let it go. The drawers are so delicate. And I also love that it's black because I feel like it just really kind of brings that, like that aha moment to a room. I actually graduated from college with a master's in education, and I quickly realized that I didn't want to be a teacher. And so I really transitioned into higher education, which still worked with my educational background, but really threw me in the world of technology, which was great because that's really where I learned how to use social media, blogging, podcasting, really all of the emerging technologies that connect with people, right? I mean, it's all about relationships. So then from there, I was actually getting my doctorate, and I realized that I didn't want to stay in the world of technology, and I started a blog. I'm pretty sure everybody second guessed what I was doing. I did myself, but I knew it was the right way to go. And so I started Lab and Label probably about, oh my goodness, like 8 to 10 years ago, and really fell in love with the creativity. I love the interiors of homes, but specifically, I'm sure you can guess it, I loved the exterior entry. I felt like it really gave a glimpse into the owner's personality. And so throughout the years, I really started focusing on the exteriors, and then that led me to starting Art of the Entry, which I just launched about 2 weeks ago. So it's a really exciting time. I would describe my style as timeless, but using heritage pieces that really ground it. And that's also how I kind of look at Art of the Entry. I create these elements that are rooted in history, but really have a fresh, new perspective. And here I wanted to create something really special. And so I actually lacquered the ceiling a light blue. I added this beautiful floral pattern from Schumacher. It's actually one of my favorites. And then one of my good friends is an artist in Savannah, Georgia, Margaret Monsees, and she actually created and painted these beautiful botanical prints. And at first I didn't know if it actually worked because flowers on flowers, but I put them up and I actually really fell in love with how it anchors this wall. Another statement piece in this room, I think, is the chandelier. I love it. It has also, again, along with the theme, some floral notes and designs that I just really love. I love the pop of gold. I think it adds just a little bit of elegance to other rooms that are kind of just a bit more casual and look lived in. I ended up having these chairs recovered in a light blue performance fabric because we do eat in here. My daughter eats in here. She eats spaghetti with meat sauce in here. And so I definitely needed something practical. But this is a performance fabric by Tebow, and I really loved just the softness of it, but also that it was durable. And then I would say my biggest splurge, which I don't know if I've even told my husband this yet, is my dining room table. It's one of my favorites. It was custom made. It's from Dunes and Duchess, and I loved the darkness of the top, but also I was able to pick a custom color for the base, and it is just this beautiful shape. I've always wanted a round table in my dining room, and this house, I finally went with it. So like I said, I really wanted a dining room that was a bit more formal because we do host a lot. And one of those reasons being is that my husband is one of 8 kids. And so when the whole family comes together, like, you know, we need a lot of space. So these chairs are actually probably a little bit too large when they come. So we swapped these out for something a little bit more dainty. And my husband is actually the cook in the family, which is really great for me because I can then focus on like setting the tables and make sure the lighting is just right. So we kind of just do a lot of family style meals in here. And then the table is actually pretty versatile because whenever it's just me, my husband, and my daughter, we come in here and have pasta and whatnot, and we can move some of the chairs out. Obviously, we remove some of the large vase and the arrangements so that we can see each other. But this is a pretty special room for me. And then what I think gives a house or a home some soul and personality is bringing in some pretty personal kind of artifacts or artwork. And so these are actually menus that we've had from just a bunch of restaurants that we visited that actually are our favorite. This one I had framed when it was kind of our probably like second international trip where we went to London and had tea at the Ritz. And then my husband is in hospitality, so he has experience with restaurants and high-end hotels. And so this is actually a menu from one of the restaurants that we met, which is the Charleston Grill. And it was his farewell dinner years and years ago when we left Charleston. And it's just such a special memory for me that I decided that's what I was going to do for the walls in the dining room. When I started Lab and Label, the best thing about it was I was able to experience a bunch of different design styles. So I would go to some friends, I would go to some houses that I was showcasing, and I got to see the whole spectrum, right? Things that were super colorful to things that were very modern. And because of that, I feel like I really was able to hone in on my style, and I wasn't scared to have a house that was all white, and I thought it kind of more of a challenge, I guess, in a way. So when I started Lab and Label, I really had the experience of seeing a bunch of different styles from homes that I was showcasing, but also homes that I were renovating. And so this is probably our, oh my goodness, like fourth house that we've renovated and designed. And so because I've had so many options, I guess one, I could play with color, the other I could play with pattern, and then now you're seeing a house that is a bit more softer and sophisticated. And this area is actually where we have our Christmas tree. It's usually minimum 10 feet tall. We really go big for Christmas, but the next room up is going to be our den. This is our den, which is arguably the most used room in our house, especially because I'm cooking and Julia is in here typically building a fort, and always on the days when I have someone helping me clean. And this is Gracie. She is our dog that we've had for 15 years, and this is her special spot that she loves. And luckily, she is a good neutral in this room. So as you can probably tell right by now, I'm drawn to like light, airy pastel colors. So in here, I wanted to have a lot of fun, obviously with this sofa that again is a performance fabric because we eat in here, we have snacks, we watch TV, just all the things of what a young family does. So I went ahead and chose this really beautiful aqua color. I wanted to bring in a pattern, but very soft, and so I brought in this sweet little climbing vine on the window panels that actually works, matches the armchair, the club chair that we have here. I wanted a soft ottoman, something that when Julia was learning to walk, like she couldn't get hurt. Again, it's performance fabric. She stands on here, jumps on the couch, jumps on the chairs. You know, like I said, we really live in our home. And then these sweet chairs are swivels, and these are from Gabby. And my husband doesn't typically allow me to bring pink in some rooms, but for this room, he was okay with it. So I rolled with it and ended up doing these sweet little blush chairs. And then this is another special piece of artwork. This is actually St. Philip's Church, and it's the church where we got married in Charleston, South Carolina. We got married in 2011, and again, it's by one of our favorite painters, Rick Reinert, who has a studio downtown on King Street. So I guess the main piece in this room, the focus piece, is this really beautiful original painting of a marsh. I would actually rather live on the marsh than on the ocean. I don't know if everyone else could agree with that, but I just feel like it's peaceful. I love the colors. This is really probably when it's fall, when all of the marsh grass starts to change this beautiful golden hue, oranges, and I just loved it. It spoke to me, and I really loved it in this room because I have a lot of color with the pinks and yellows and greens, and I thought it could use something that was a bit more dynamic. All right, and then over here, we have our shelving. Again, we have our frame TV. This is where my daughter really loves to watch Bluey. If you haven't seen Bluey yet, it's like one of the best shows out there. Anyway, a fun fact about me, I hate styling bookshelves. It is something that I just really don't like it. I feel like it's not a strength of mine. Give me a room, give me a coffee table. I can style all day. Bookshelves, I think it's just, for me, it's like a lot of clutter. But I did my best. I think my mom would be proud. Here, again, I just have a collection of all of my coffee table books, these sweet brass bookends that are, again, of an English Springer. Yeah, I think they're English Springers. And then again, with just some beautiful vases that I've collected over the years and some family photos. So for the side tables, I actually picked something that I felt had a bit more of a modern shape. I also went with something round because all of the other pieces in this room are square and a bit more traditional. And so I wanted something that was a bit more, just kind of like a bit more modern. I actually love the texture of the actual base, if you can see it here. I feel like it adds a lot of dimension to the room. And also, these are just the perfect size. I needed something a bit more petite for this side and also on the other side of the sofa. And they're from Gabby, and I really love them. And we probably are in the den as much as we are because it is right off of the kitchen where reluctantly I'm cooking. Again, not one of my favorite strengths. It's my husband's, but I got to do it. But at least it's in this kitchen, right? I guess I really can't complain. As you can see, this kitchen has a pretty big island. And so I ended up putting like a pretty big vase that really never moves, although I do kind of change what's inside of it. But I love the texture that the ferns, the assortment of ferns that I use. And now I just have some white orchids to make it like a nice clean look. We love to bake cookies in here, whether it's for Easter or Valentine's Day or Christmas. Julia's godmother comes over, and this is a space that we definitely utilize here in the kitchen, probably the most. Whenever I moved in, the kitchen was actually already designed, and so I feel like I didn't get to put my personal stamp on it. I love how it's clean, modern, but I think if I had the money and my husband said yes, I would probably change out the tile, the backsplash, to something a bit more like handmade, probably something with a little bit of pattern on it. But I love this space. I feel like it has a ton of storage, and I love the light that shines in, and also that these windows are operable. So for the glass shelving, I actually wanted to keep it with the monotone of like the white that you find in this space. And so here, I pretty much have our everyday dishes, which is probably different than what most people would use. They might put their crystal or their china, but here I wanted something pretty practical. And so I just have my white dinner plates, salad plates, things like that, things that I can easily reach to. And then randomly I have all of my china in the drawers that are covered. Maybe they should switch, but I'm constantly grabbing here. And so I wanted this room to be really practical for our family. And at the end of our island, I had these sweet little chairs recovered and actually added this darling little pleat on the edge just to make it, a bit more feminine, because that tends to be my style and how I roll. And over here, this is where Julia has most of her meals. This is her sweet table. I just love the cute little rattan bunny chairs. But this way she feels like she's a part of the whole scene. She also does a lot of arts and crafts. And speaking of arts and crafts, I have this whole little wall dedicated to Julia. Some of it is her artwork, some of it's things that I've did for her whenever I was leaving town as a little treat. But again, this is what brings the personality, the soul of the home. Even though it's not framed or from a famous artist, we still appreciate all of the work that we have posted. And the art that we have here on this wall above Julia's sweet little table is really, again, just pictures of marsh, what I'm typically drawn to. I love that it's a bit more traditional framing, and actually the art is a bit more traditional. I lean toward that rather than abstract, but I just felt these two actually really grouped together, and I just really love how it filled the wall. And I don't know if you've noticed or not, but our kitchen actually doesn't have a refrigerator. It's actually in our bar area, which is really nice, especially when we're hosting, because we're not opening doors and people aren't crowded. But here we have our refrigerator. We also have our wine cooler. And honestly, this wallpaper, if I could create wallpaper, this would be it. It's like white, blues, and greens, trellis, florals. It has me written all over it. I loved it in this area, kind of in this transition area. Again, the light fixture above is from Circa Lighting. I just felt like it fit in this sweet little space, really that helps transition into our morning room. I am constantly inspired by travel. I am constantly inspired by history, architecture. One of the best things about living in Charleston is just the history that we have here, the beautiful homes, the beautiful gardens. I'm inspired by people with style that I follow, like tastemakers. Really, it's just, I look to the beauty in my life. And our morning room, also called the mud room. Morning room sounds a little bit better, but this is pretty much our drop zone. It leads to our garage, so when we come home, we have cabinetry that we put all of our coats and shoes and all the things. And then these are actually storage, and I'm not gonna open them because if I would, just a lot of toys would fall out, so I will save you. But again, it's just a practical room. These are the botanicals that I've had left from Mary Margaret Monsi's. Again, she hand painted these. I loved them. I felt like they added some color in here. And then also we added this custom kind of cabinetry piece. We love having a coffee machine in our home. Our first house that we ever moved into, we actually bought foreclosure, and randomly it had a coffee machine, a built-in coffee machine. And we were like, wow, this is amazing. So we've always included this in our budget from our homes that we've lived in since then. It really is a game changer if you're thinking about it. But yeah, and what I did was I added just a little bit of a beadwork of an accent color, just to make it, again, a bit more soft and just give it, something for your eyes to be drawn to. What I like about this room are the really high ceilings, and also how it's just really all of the molding and the woodworking, I think, gives this room its detail. And then we ended up finding this really lightweight chandelier. I feel like it's a bit of a farmhouse style, which typically isn't my vibe, but when I saw it, I thought that it really kind of fit the room perfectly. And the morning room, or the mud room, whatever you prefer to call it, and our den actually both open up to our side porch. So in this room specifically, I was like, oh, this is gonna be great. This is gonna be an area where we lounge, come out here and have like wine in the evenings, whatever it is. And then we realized that we actually wanted to use this room a lot more for dining. So when we had guests over, we wanted to be outside, but we also loved how it was screened in. So we were shielded from all of the mosquitoes that we have here. So we actually ended up turning it into another area that we could have dining. This table is actually reclaimed wood from a church in Louisiana. It was after the hurricane hit, and it's actually a pecky cypress wood, which really you wouldn't think that this texture works well for a table because you have things that get in and out of the grooves. But I've always gotten the most amazing feedback whenever people come over, and I love how they did like a really light whitewash on it, and I just really love it in this space against, kind of like the pale gray floors. I typically don't have a green thumb, but this fiddle fig has lasted 2 years, so I'm pretty proud of it. We had a freeze this winter, and I thought that she was a goner, but she came back, so I feel like she really loves this space, so I'm just gonna leave her there. And then the other thing that I have out here is This sweet little bar cart. Again, this is from Mainly Baskets. It actually matches the furniture that you saw on my front porch. I just had it painted in a custom Faro and ball color. And out here, it really just holds all of my kind of gardening things. Also my mahjong tiles that I love. I don't know if any of you are into mahjong right now, but it is quite the scene in Charleston. But again, I just come out here, I grab my watering cans. Typically, Julia has one too out there, and we go and water our flowers in the afternoons. So the ceiling in this room and also on the front porch actually has a really pale blue color on it that is pretty kind of typical in the South, especially in Charleston. It's supposedly to keep bugs and evil spirits away. But I just love how it adds something of a little pop, kind of like my dining room. Remember the ceiling was light blue? You know, have to bring it into every room. Not really, but definitely just the porches, you'll see a lot of the paint blue ceilings. When I think about a home that has soul, I really think about what pieces are in there that may be heirloom pieces. So for instance, we have a grand piano that has been in my husband's family for years and years and years. And whenever I look at it, I think of, it's just a storied piece. So I think of his history, his family. I love antiques. I really feel like it grounds the room. But I also love, you know, things that are happening in our life now. Like in my kitchen, there's a wall of my daughter's drawings. You know, again, she's in 4, so it's just some color. You really can't see some of the images that she's making. But I just think about, you know, really what really represents your family and how you can sprinkle them in here and there, whether that's in modern times, like my daughter's drawings, or whether that is a piece that has been passed down from years to years. The thing I love about this room is I mentioned that it's all screened in because we can have all of the doors to the house open and not have to worry about mosquitoes and things like that. But it also leads out to our side yard. So our outside area is probably the cleanest that you've seen it because typically behind me there is a bounce castle that my daughter is sitting on while I'm out here trying to do work or reading a magazine. But here we really just wanted a space that flowed well from the inside of our house because we have such beautiful weather here in Charleston. We have this sweet little lounge area. The furniture is from Harbor Classic, which is founded here in Charleston, South Carolina. And then we use this outdoor dining table quite a good bit. Honestly, in the mornings I come out here and work on my laptop and fix my morning matcha. It's not as bright yet, and in the mornings there really aren't as many bugs, so it's a good time to take advantage of this beautiful space. Because this area gets so much sunlight, as you can see, we wanted to add a sweet little umbrella moment. And here we ended up bringing in the color that you found in the den, specifically if you remember my like aqua sofa. So we wanted to pull that color out here. This is a custom umbrella. Of course, I wanted it to be in scalloped. I really wanted double scalloped, but they said no. So this is what we got. But again, it's just nice because we can use it over the dining table that we have out here, or if we're working on doing some work out on the sofas, we can just easily move it since it's on wheels. If you have an outdoor space that you're looking to furnish, for me, it's a little tricky, but you can definitely find pieces that will help and weather all of the elements that you experience. I would definitely recommend teak, which is what I've used here for the coffee table, the side table, and the dining. I would look into finding fabrics that are maybe Sunbrella or Performance or something that does well with direct sunlight. So for me, I really love outdoor and the gardening and the front porches. And so I do spend a lot of time out here. It's obviously why I started Art of the Entry. You know, finding beautiful elements that really kind of add value to your curb appeal that are timeless. A home to me is a home well lived. And so I love to see rooms that are actually being used. I love to see my daughter ride her little scooter through the kitchen. I love to, you know, have her running and playing with a ball, or whether it's my husband playing the piano in the mornings with the window open. I really just think it's utilizing all of the spaces and just cherishing the memories that we have and that we are making.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.